Hi, and welcome back to another video lecture. Today we're talking about homesteaders and sodbusters, people who took advantage of the 1862 Homestead Act and set out to the West to become small farmers, living out Thomas Jefferson's small farmer American dream. Independent, self-sufficient, land-owning Americans. Unfortunately, that's not usually how that story goes. So let's talk about the Sodbusters. All right. Sodbusters, homesteaders. All right. People who went out and tore up the prairie grass, killed the buffalo, made the great American desert the great American wheat belt. Okay. All right. So they had to, there's no water out there in the great American desert. So you got to use irrigation and deep soil planting and digging a bunch of canals. If you go west on Interstate 80, today you'll see, lakes and riverbeds and canals that were dug by these homesteaders, and that which cities have been built around and remain today. So there's a lot of rich history out there with that, but you'll still see the irrigation, new irrigation technology out there so that they can plant their crop. Okay, but the way that this works then is by using the new technology that was available of the day in order to increase your yield. 160 acres is not a lot of land, and it's tough to produce enough to make good money doing that. But because of the new mechanized farming, they were able to increase their yields and make a lot of money, the early ones anyway, doing so. Okay, and these new technologies are the plow, the seed drill, the reaper, and the threshing machine. And for those of you who aren't aware, this is what a plow looked like. It's pretty basic. John Deere steel plow, pull it behind and dig up the soil. Okay, so you can put your seed deep into the soil where there's a little more moisture and protection from the hot sun. All right. We also have the planter. Okay, sorry, the seed drill. Forgot, lost my mind there. Okay, anyway, the seed drill. You can see right down here, you got a little plow there. Cuts the ground, drops the seed right in behind it. You pull that behind your mule. Okay, and then when it comes harvesting time, you have the threshing machine. The threshing process is removing the seed from the stalk. So if you're talking about corn, which in this area we have all kinds of commercial corn, taking the kernel of corn off of the cob would be threshing. Okay, and then you have your reaper. Not this reaper. A lot of weirdos on the internet obsessed with the Grim Reaper, but you'll notice he's got a side there. Yeah. All right. Anyway, reaping means gathering. Okay, and so this Grim Reaper gathers souls, but the actual reaping machine, you can see here, cuts your wheat stalk and gathers it up. Okay, so you actually go reap and then you go thresh. Okay, in fact, we should just move that over here because you go reaping and then threshing, right? All right, there's that scary guy again. Okay, now in the modern day, we have a machine that combines the reaping and threshing process. It's called a combine, because we're good at naming stuff. Okay, anyway, so this is the basic, like, all right, these tools allow us to work 160 acres with just one family and produce a lot more than otherwise we would have been able to do. Okay, so this new technology plus unusually wet, the desert, it rained in the desert, and they had a saying called the rain follows the plow, and for some reason it worked. Okay, so unusually wet time, new technology, it means higher yields, and we have the industrialization of American agriculture, where now that we can plant larger territories with fewer people, and you can get higher yields, you get the big business model of American agriculture. The small farmer who sells his wheat for a couple pennies profit per bushel, not going to make it. But if you have a large amount of land and you can sell your wheat for a couple pennies profit per bushel, you're making a lot of money. It's called economies of scale, and we're going to learn more about that in our industrialization unit. Nevertheless, big business thrives in mechanized farming, and slowly over time, we see fewer and fewer small farmers and it's becoming big business. Now in the 30s, because of the New Deal, that trend kind of reversed for a minute. And but really since the 1980s, especially in our American Midwest, we're seeing less and less small farmers, especially only small farmers. They usually supplement their income with other jobs, and more big farmers, big landowners. This is a tale as old as time, right? All right, now these small farmers trying to make their way have to plant their cash crop. And so they continue to plant that. And then this overuse of the land combined with drought and then wind erosion, because we've torn up the prairie grass, which means we have a bunch of loose sandy topsoil that's going to get blown away. And so we get ourselves some dust bowls. This is going to hurt that small farm quite a bit. That plus the wheat market busts. And it busts because all these people are planting wheat, and all these big businesses or big farmers are planting wheat. And what you end up getting is a lot of people planting wheat, and you get an oversupply or a glut. You may notice the word glut from the 7 deadly sins, gluttony, too much food, or maybe gluten-free. Okay, we're talking about wheat, and we have too much wheat. And so we have an oversupply, and like we learned in the last lesson, the more you have of something, if demand doesn't rise with that supply, your price goes down. And these farmers can no longer sell at a break-even price. And so they have to mortgage their land. They have to go into debt, and they put their land up against that debt. And so if they don't pay their debts, the bank takes their land. So what we end up seeing is most homesteaders and sodbusters who move to the West in order to be independent landowning Americans, to follow that individualistic dream, end up under the control of big businesses and financial advisors from the East, like the banks, right? They're tenant farmers, and they're at the mercy of the financial system in the United States, which we'll learn about more in the next unit, what JP Morgan is doing with all of that. But this idea that the West is this individualistic utopia, or that it is free from any sort of centralized system, it is just false, right? And in reality, it's more of the same. Banks and politics. Okay, while that's happening, at the very end of the Western expansion here, we have the Oklahoma land rush, where the United States government took the territory of Oklahoma, which had been granted to the natives, and in this tale is old as time too, deciding that that would be better suited for farmers and settlers and ranchers. We have the land rush, where we're going to give away land in Oklahoma, and this is where you get the term boomer and sooner. So a boomer, not a baby boomer, different boomer. The boomer waited till the proper time. They set off a cannon's boom. They went out. They tried to stake their claim in the Oklahoma land, but there were people who had snuck out early. They're called Sooners, right? They took the good plots of land, the ones suitable for farming. So the Sooners are going to be in a much more successful spot than the Boomers were. And then now we get ourselves the Oklahoma Sooners. Okay. All right. This effectively closes the frontier. We have settled the West because of mining, because of farming, right? And we are moving into a new era. All right. And we have more to say that when we talk to our friend Frederick Jackson Turner in the next video. Thanks for watching.